listener production.
The creators of this podcast would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which it is recorded. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people are the first storytellers of this land. We pay respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, as well as any Indigenous people who may be listening today.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be... Well, we can talk about it.
All right. Everyone relax. This is TOFOP. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson. Hello, and thank you for watching.
Yeah, the confusion you just heard at the start, and Mike, you can leave all that rambling in, is we started recording the app, and then a minute in, I realized that Will's microphone was not connected. His external mic was not connected. And so we quickly, thank God, stopped and restarted. But then the question became, Will's... What do we call this? Is it the aircraft signs? What do you call that?
Yeah, I mean,
what is that called?
I don't know if we have
call
an official
signs.
name for it.
Call signs. That's the code name.
Yeah, I mean, it's a call sign.
No,
of
call
some
sign
kind,
is
isn't it?
That's your code name. Like Maverick is a call sign, and Goose is a call sign, and Son of Goose or whatever he was called, Rooster is a call sign. Gosling. But what do you call that? It would be like if you're in the army, you know, for people who aren't watching the full-length video because they haven't subscribed to Patreon, and you should really do that if you want to support the show. When the army, like you're in a platoon and you stop because a guy raises his fist and then does that, like a little, what are those? Sign language? No, it's not, is it sign language? It's hand signing.
I mean, it is a forehand signing. That's what it's called.
It's got to have a name, right? Like when you go to Aircraft Academy... When you join the RAAF and they say, hey, you're going to be the paddles, man. You've got to learn some, what are they called? Aircraft gestures? Hand signals. Learn some hand signals. Hand signs, hand signals. It's hand signals.
Hand signals.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm just,
that's what they are.
2 minutes.
They are called. They're called
first 2 minutes
hand
of the show,
signals.
it's working out what a hand signal's called. So the question was, because we'd done the false start with the hand signals. Do we need to do it a second time over? And what did we do in the end? I can't remember. Did you do it?
I did it a second time over because based on where this comes from, which is that we were going to start the show with the precision of a Top Gun pilot leaving the deck of a,
aircraft carrier.
They would, it's not like if it didn't work the first time.
They would try it a second. What's the point? We tried.
Like, well, you're on your own. Take off. We've done our job. Take off when you want, I suppose.
The guy on the flight deck with the paddles, he just kicks the dirt, just like a petulant child. Like, I tried it once, didn't work.
I nailed my
Stupid.
bit.
I did it. Well, you want me to do it again? We're back. We're back with another episode. What I asked in the aborted attempt to this, Will, was YouTube. Yes. Are you watching YouTube? Because I know you're off social media.
And I said that because I've moved recently, I'm not on the home TV that has all the pre-existing algorithms. So when I would go to YouTube, traditionally it would serve me whatever the latest movie releases would be. They would serve me honest trailers, pitch meetings, everything wrong with, compilations of highlights of games from Mock the Week. The things that I look at on YouTube, a whole bunch of hip-hop film clips that is basically, what it would serve me. And so your algorithm eventually, and this is the comfort of the algorithm, is that eventually you think, oh, yeah, you know what? Everyone in the world is just watching pitch meetings and listening to hip-hop, right? And then suddenly you go onto a fresh computer and you log into YouTube and you realize
hell is this?
It's mostly some fella called Mr. Beast.
Well, I have found a YouTube channel that I feel like, it's already big, but it's just like, it's that thing of like once you take mushrooms the first time, all of a sudden you start seeing mushroom imagery everywhere. Like I saw one of these videos and now it's like there's a billion of them. And just like hot ones, I'm like, oh, someone's hit upon a formula here and it's addictive. Now, this is a free plug for this website, which because it's also like a content channel for an app. It's called Drumeo. It's basically a drummer's resource where, people who want to learn how to drum or get better at drumming, there's an app you can download that has lessons with all these famous drum teachers and famous drummers from bands come in and, it's like masterclass, but for drummers, right?
So, well, I mean, the better example would probably be that it's like Cameo for drummers, seeing it's called Drumeo, but it might be more informed like master.
Yeah, well, it's actually a
class,
course. So it's an online resource for drummers to learn how to drum and, learn from the best and all that kind of stuff. But they do this, there's a channel on it or like a playlist, which is like not blind auditions, but they'll get in, say, like Chad Smith from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and they will play him a song he's never heard before, but with the drum track taken out. So it's like, it'll just be a pop song with just the vocals and the guitar. He gets to listen to it once. He gets to have a fool around with it on the second listen. And then by the third time, he's just got to play whatever he thinks the drum fill is. And they give people songs that are completely out of their genre. So like they gave him like it's actually was hilarious. They gave him a Dua Lipa song, like a disco one, which he was amazing at. He just did this disco beat. But then sometimes they don't tell the artist who the band is or anything. It's like it's a secret. And so they played him 30 Seconds to Mars. And he fucking killed it. Like he was just going, working the kit, like, and then at the end, he's like, what was that emo shit? and the producer's like, that was Jared Leto's band, 30 Seconds to Mars. He's like, oh, I know Jared. Like, they left it in. And he's like, his brother's actually a pretty good drummer. And it's like, too late, buddy. You said, what was that emo shit? But it's fucking awesome. And there's one video in particular, which I have been, like, it's addictive. Once you watch one, then you're like, oh, I want to see a jazz drummer doing fucking Tool. Oh, I want to see like a heavy metal drummer doing fucking like K-pop. Like it's so much fun and it's such a simple formula because the thing is, like, you're actually watching these drummers, like the amazing drummers in real time, just like create, like they're just, and it gives you all this like appreciation for what the skill of drumming is and the energy they bring to a song. But there's one in particular, I think her name is Dominica or whatever. She's this South American pop drummer. She does a lot of like Latin pop and they play her like Slipknot. And it's the heaviest shit. And she's only listening to the isolated vocal and guitar track. So all she's hearing is like this staccato shouting and screaming with like, and she's sitting there and you see her and the whole time she's laughing. She's like, I've got no fucking idea what this is or what this band is or what this song is. But then over the course of the 3 takes, you watch it, like the first take you see her go, it's like, oh man, this is going to be a car crash. She's so tentative and she seems to not, know where the fills are and she's just like flapping about. And then second take, a little bit better, but still you're like, oh, this is going to be bad. And then it gets to the third take and dude, she's wearing this flannel. She takes it off. She ties it around her waist. She fucking puts her hair in a ponytail. And then she goes fucking ape shit. And it is like, I'm getting goosebumps talking about it. I've watched this clip like 5 times because she's phenomenal.
What's her name?
I have to find it for you.
So what song is she playing?
She's playing Slipknot, a Slipknot song. Let me find it for you.
Okay. I'm just going to look it up and save it on this computer and then I'll only get Drumeo.
Her name is Drumeo Sant'Antonio. Domino Sant'Antonio.
Oh, yep. I got it. Drumeo, Domino Sant'Antonio doing Slipknot. Oh, even in the little, video that it has next to the video, you can tell they've got a little clip of her just not knowing what the fuck is going on.
Like every kind of 80s film, like The Karate Kid or whatever, where you see that person go through the hero's journey and then fucking nail it at the end. It's that, but in a 14-minute clip. Like she just goes from being the biggest underdog and she's fucking like so likable and affable and like her whole attitude to doing this like fully heavy metal song is like, I don't know, I'll just have a crack. And then in the end, so what they do at the very end is then they'll play the track to the drummer so they can hear. And she actually was pretty close in a lot of areas. There's certain things that, funnily enough, she almost went too hard on. Like she doesn't even have a double kick. So she starts just like doing this slip technique with one foot so she gets a double kick sound. And she's just like Animal from the Muppet Show, just fucking working this kit. And by the end of it, I was like, whoa, like I have to watch that again. And it's just, that channel is filled with videos like that. There's another one where they get this amazing jazz drummer on and they play him some, It's like a really sort of experimental metal band where they all wear masks and they don't have names. Like the drummer's called Two. Like they're all numbered. They have like these aliases. And it's really, in terms of like tempo shift and pace shift and stuff, it's all over the shop. And you see this fucking jazz drummer with his quiff and he's just sitting there and he's like, what is this? And he again is just like, oh, I don't know. And then by the third take, he goes fucking ape shit. But he's just like drumming faster than any metal drum you've ever heard, but with this jazz kind of like working around the kit and just like hi-hatting and stuff. Dude, you will love it. It is so much fun to watch.
Is that how good drummers are? Can they just do that? Or is it like
this level? I mean,
do you think it's really 3 takes?
Yeah.
Do you think, or is that just the convention of the
No, it's definitely
videos they're
3
making
takes
and they give
because
them more
some
takes?
drummers, like Michael Jackson's drummer, he doesn't even wait to listen to it. He just starts playing. He just does it intuitively because the other fascinating thing about it is they all give you their process. Like some write shit down. Like one girl, she's like, I'm just going to break it into verse, chorus, so I know where the changes are. There's this dude, I think he's a jazz drummer who's drumming to Enter Sandman, and he says, look, I just need to know where specific, I can't remember what the vernacular is, but it's a specific drum term. There's like every song has 5 of these. If I know where they are, then I think I can guess from everything else. It's phenomenal. It's so much fun.
Man, yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to do the rest of this podcast. I just want to go
get
and
to the drum.
watch some Drumeo.
But I've been such an evangelist. So like I only discovered it like 3 days ago, and I've been trying to make everyone watch it, and like it doesn't work when you try and force. It's because it's a 14-minute video, and you really have to. It's not something like you can show on your phone in like a minute, like because you've got to sit there and see the process. Because part of the fun of it is watching that person shit themselves in the first like 10 minutes of going like, I can't. You're just playing me vocals and guitars. I don't know. Is it like are they doing like a tom fill here? Are they just building on the snare? Are they actually opening it up? Like it's so fascinating. But then more often than not, the last take is just like it's the instinct takes over. That's the kind of beauty of it is you get this, I guess, 2 sides of creativity where, you know, one side you do have to be analytical and mathematical and there's a structure and stuff. But it's like I could liken it to acting in the sense that when you get a script, you'll break it down, you'll study it, you'll tear it apart. There'll be sections, there'll be beats, there'll be a structure to the scene. And then once you've learnt all that and you've got it in your head, then the skill is to shake that all off and just turn up on the day and be ready to kind of play in the scene with the other actors around you just to, shake that all off. But to see it done like that where, like from an acting point of view, if I take my time to say my line, it doesn't really affect anything. But with a drummer, they can't fucking miss a change, like it's all dependent on them.
It's amazing. I love that. Like it's such a interesting insight into like how they think about what it is that they do and how that they can listen to something else and find the beat inside those things that they can do. That's like, it's like they speak a different language. They can hear the world with a certain sort of rhythm or like notice shifts of energy or shifts of pace and intuitively know how they can respond to be able to drive that beat or create that beat. It's quite fascinating.
One of the guys, I can't remember who, was saying, because the other reason they're showing it is if you are a session drummer or you've been hired by a band for a tour, you've got to learn their songs. So part of the skill set is actually being able to listen to music and quickly pick up, this is what they need here. So it's sort of developing that intuition. And one guy was saying, I think it might have been the Michael Jackson guy, is that, look, you've got to get all that technical stuff down. But if you don't get the energy of the band, like drumming is really, really essential. Like the how hard you hit and when you hit and the timing of your hits and whether you're doing double time or you're slowing it down, like you've got to get that. And bands will shift within a set or within a gig. They'll play certain songs and you can't just learn one way. You've got to be able to roll with all of that. And I was thinking about it, it's like, I don't know much about me. I'm not a musician, but drummers are always given so much shit. But now I'm watching this fucking YouTube channel. I'm like, I think drummers might be the most important people in a band.
There's a theory in comedy that I've heard occasionally, and I can't find too many examples just off the top of my head, although I know that Tom Gleeson used to be a drummer.
Oh, yeah.
Was a drummer in a band. And like I've heard it floated before that like people who were drummers make good comedians
Summers.
because they
Potentially the greatest
two examples, Tom Gleeson and Daryl Summers, the two greatest comedians that Australia has ever produced. Both drummers. Yeah, that is like the perfect if we were having a debate over an issue and I'm like pretty confident going into this going, I'm going to use Tom Gleeson as my example. He's renowned as being a great comedian. We can all agree on that. This will be a very good, solid opening argument for the fact that drummers make good comedians. And you've immediately gone and I raise you with Daryl Summers. And I'm like,
touche.
Well done.
But I could see, I don't know if it's like specifically comedy, but I think there's a certain kind of brain. Like I learnt drums for a little while because I do love music, but I find it difficult to do. It doesn't come naturally, and I've got these short, stumpy fingers. So, like, you know, working a guitar or keyboard is difficult for me. And so Gemma got me a drum set, and I actually found that if you don't have natural talent or a flair for music, though, but you can count and keep a rhythm, like that's kind of it's the easiest entry level than, you know, doing chords or whatever is actually just keeping a beat. Like most people can keep a beat.
I don't think that I
keep
can.
A beat.
I think that I would.
You can bob your head.
If I
That's out of time. That's unbelievable.
Podcasting. Just
can't believe it. 4 nods and like each one with a different time in between each. It's fucking weird.
But that honestly feels like that's how I experience the world. I always feel like time. Yeah, I don't feel like I have a regimented beat. And even as a performer, like on stage, I don't find what I do easy to replicate. You know, I find like every night I can find a rhythm within things, but it doesn't feel like I can replicate the same rhythm as what happened the night before. I just have to find like a rhythm in the moment, but it has no particular consistency to it.
You did like Shakespeare in the Park once upon a time, didn't you?
I did. And
so how'd you go with that?
The fact that I've never done it again is probably a good example. I mean,
did you find the rhythm of the language hard?
I think at the time I probably did, but we did it for like months. And so after a while, it becomes very natural. And in fact, if anything, I didn't rely on the rhythm of the language as much as like saying the language in the way that I talk, because it actually
completely ignoring 500 years of like Shakespearean theory.
Like, we're both called William, mate.
Blah, 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 to be or whatever.
Blah, blah, blah. I'll shake a cordless phone, mate. You shake your spear. Things have changed. Oh, I know a better way.
Cordless phone. Is that the most current tech that came to mind?
I was, at the time, I think I was
it was
trying
the late 90s.
I was, I'm trying to like make
phone,
this era.
The peak of technology in 1997.
It was the best thing I could think of in 1997. I've got a Discman, you've got a spear. You know what I mean? Like...
weren't like personal computers around?
Oh yeah, barely though. Like, and it would be weird for you to say you've got a sphere and I've got
computer.
You shake a spear and I shake a personal computer. Yeah, but laptops like that, you couldn't shake your personal computers back in the day. They were massive.
Yeah, in laptops weren't that thick in 97.
Mate, in 1997. Yeah. Are you kidding me? Laptops were everything was big in 97, mate. Like you're just
misremembering.
Like you're confused about how long things have been around for. Like
really? I could have sworn I had a laptop.
Technology has evolved very quickly. You might have. I mean, I'm not. But like really, he wouldn't understand what any of those things were anyway, would he, Shakespeare? Point. So
like, I don't know. You could say, I'll shake my floppy doo-wah and I wouldn't know what that was.
Like it wouldn't mean anything to him that the phone had a cord or didn't have a cord because he wouldn't know what a phone was.
Yeah, drummers, man, drummers. You'll get a whole new appreciation for like different genres of music as well, because like they bring in these, like there's jazz, metal, that pop drummer. There's all these different people who come in, and then when you hear how they break stuff down, it's like one guy was like, I've never listened to. What was it? It was like something ridiculous. It wasn't like the Beatles, but it was. Oh, it was the Kill.
OK Computer by Radiohead.
Yeah, I think Ben Elton does play drums too, doesn't he? No, it was a heavy metal drummer, drums to Mr. Brightside. And they were like, have you ever heard this song before? And he's like, no. And they're like, are you serious? Like,
impossible.
Yeah, it's like one of the most popular pop songs. I was like, no, I've never listened.
There is no way you can. I was literally staying in a hotel last night where the pub across the road were playing Mr. Brightside. I've heard it within the last 24 hours. There is no way this guy can have lived in the world and not heard Mr. Brightside.
I think this was Megadeth's drummer, who's like that classic Scandinavian like metal dude. I think those guys take their metal pretty seriously. I think there is a chance he could not have heard Mr. Brightside.
But just down the shops or something, right? Like, I mean, even if you're in like Megadeth, you're probably still going to the shops.
Yeah, but aren't you tuning out? Like, I've probably heard a bit of K-pop in my time, but I couldn't tell you what it sounded like.
No, but if you heard it again, you'd be like, maybe not. No, you're right. Good argument. Well done.
This is 2 out of 2 for you in this episode. In the podcast. I've never had this kind of advantage in our relationship ever.
This is
imagine this is the episode where the tables turn. Now I get to make fun of you for 13 years. Last week, I mentioned that I went to see Paul McCartney, and it got me thinking. Do you remember that clip that came out? I don't know how many years ago, but I think it was like Beck and Paul McCartney and Taylor Hawkins not being able to get into some after party after the Grammys or something. Do you remember that?
Beck Hewitt.
Yeah, Beck and Leighton Hewitt and Sir Paul McCartney and Taylor Hawkins. Scientologist Beck. Scientologist and musician Beck, Paul McCartney and Taylor Hawkins. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. It was like an Oscars or Arias. Or not Arias.
Grammys.
Yeah, it was.
It was a TMZ video, and they were. I think it was like, oh god, there's a rapper called. Is he called Latigra? No, El Tigo.
Oh yeah, I think so. Well, something Tigray.
Tigger. Winnie the Pooh and Tigger.
It was Paul McCartney, Beck, and who?
Taylor Hawkins.
Because
I think Paul, I remember him saying, even somehow not being a Beatles good enough to get into the club or something like that.
Yeah, right. Okay, here we go.
Hang on. You know what? I can find the actual clip and play it.
Okay, but this is the article from Rolling Stone. In a bizarre turn of the events, after the Grammys, Beatles co-founder Paul McCartney, American singer-songwriter Beck, and Foo Fighters drummer Taylor Hawkins were reportedly denied entry to rapper Tyga's, Tyga, Tyga's party at the Argyle in Hollywood.
Right. Oh, I've got the video. Perfect. Here we go. So that's just TMZ dickhead talking to Paul McCartney as he's waiting in line, and he looks very annoyed. You got a very...
I like that Paul McCartney is like chewing gum like he's done a whole lot of cocaine. Like he's really
How young does Beck look
gum
in the front there? He looks like he's taking his kid out. Yeah.
Mate,
right,
that's Scientology. Keeps you looking young.
All right, so the bouncers just shut the door in their face.
Oh, my God. So Beck kind of lingered and just stared dismissively at the TMZ cameras. And then so Paul's gone towards the door to get into this club, and Taylor's kind of behind him. And so Paul has been refused entry. Sir Paul McCartney. Okay, how VIP do we got to get? That's what even in that moment though, what a hip way of saying that. How VIP do we got to get? And
Beck.
He included Taylor Hawkins and Beck in that. The generosity of spirit by really what the question is, how big does he have to be? He's literally in the most famous band of all time.
Okay, there's some awkward banter going on now.
Yeah, so we need another hit, guys.
Do you think Paul's doing that for the benefit of the camera or just to save face in front of the other bouncer?
I mean, I think this is a situation he is not prepared for. Like, when would have been the last time that Sir Paul has been denied entry to any room? Like, I mean, I just would have thought
like Buckingham Palace, he'd be allowed to walk in.
But do whatever you want to do. Just make yourself at home, mate. Like you've contributed so much to this world. You get just like, they give some like people the keys to the city, right? Like he gets the keys to everywhere. The universal key. Like I would be happy if I came home and Paul McCartney was just sitting in the living room watching something on YouTube, but that's fine. He's earned that right.
I'm actually even amazed that they had to wait. You know what I mean? Like they were lingering on the sidewalk at the start of this clip 40 seconds ago and they are still no closer to the door. Like not even getting rejected inside away from the paparazzi. Like they're just on the street. Like everyone who's ever gone to a club, you know, like post some event and you're in your suits knows this feeling where you're loitering around and you in your brain, you're half thinking, is this worth it? Like, should I just get a cab and go home? Like you're hanging out with your mates and like you want to kick on, but is this bit worth it? This particular humiliation worth it? That's what's going on, right?
I mean, this is the problem, I think, particularly for Sir Paul McCartney, because for Taylor and for Beck, you're hanging out with Sir Paul. So, of course, it's worth it, right? Whatever he wants to do, if he wants to stay out wherever he wants to go, of course, you are spending you're going home when he goes home, right? But you're not going home beforehand. Yeah. But for Sir Paul, what could possibly happen inside that room that is anything cooler than a million things he has done in his life? Like by him going in there, he gives everyone a story, right? Yeah. Like not the other way around. Like, so particularly for him, you've got to think like, I mean, he's met John Lennon. He's already like, who's he going to meet that's cooler than that?
That was actually something funny about the concert was, he sort of did a little story about each of the other three members of the Beatles, but the way to introduce it was like, you know, I was talking to my friend John, you know, and as if like, yeah, we all know your friend John, mate. Like you don't have to qualify him. Just say John. I was talking to John. We know which John you're talking about. It's all good.
I mean, but even that is the power of, I mean, of course, you're at a Paul McCartney concert, so context clues are giving you an idea of which John he might be referring to, but it is also the power of like when you say John, Paul, George and Ringo, people immediately just know who you are talking about. Like these are the biggest names on the fucking planet. Like what is, I mean, okay, let's keep going. There's more.
I actually saw a guy at the concert and he's wearing a T-shirt and all it said on it, there was no pictures or like tour dates or anything like that. It just said Paul. And I'm like, Paul, how famous do you have to be? Do you have the most generic Anglo name? And immediately I'd say most people would see that T-shirt would know you're talking about Paul McCartney. Like that's fine.
Also, I mean, was this an official Paul McCartney bit of merchandise that he just sells with Paul on it? Or did this guy just knock up his own Paul shirt at home? Because that's what it sounds like.
All right, let's go to the video.
Oh, here we go. They've opened the door.
Okay, so they've cracked the door open a little bit.
Oh, my God.
And
so here's what let's go on. You can describe.
Well, so the door cracked open a little bit. Security said to the two guards outside, no, no, no. So now Paul and Taylor have moved to a more visible position in the cracked door so that they can see exactly who they're denying entry to, but nothing appears to be changing.
I mean, they're doing what they should be doing in this situation is making people aware of who they are without saying, don't you know who I am? Yeah. They're just like going, I'm going to give you a second chance. Just have a look and see, does either of these guys remind you of one of the greatest musicians of all time or, I don't know, the drummer from the biggest band in the fucking world?
I mean, the amazing thing is too, like I was saying to Sammy Cav, who I went to the gig with, when Paul McCartney came out on stage, like, you know, normally when you see a band, especially if they haven't been in Australia for like 4 or 5 years, you do get a little moment of when they come out on stage, you're like, oh my God, like that's fucking whoever. But when he came on stage, because he is so famous and you see his face so often, it was like, oh, there's Paul McCartney. Like there was no moment because it's like, oh, there's Santa Claus or, there's Mickey Mouse or like whatever recognizable brand. He is one of the most famous faces in the world. Subconsciously, you'd think that anyone would know who he was, even if they didn't know who he was, right?
Do you think that, and look, we're not the first people to discuss this aspect of it, and Cam and Alexi do a really funny chat about this on their podcast, Special Features, which I highly recommend for people to check out. But do you think, this is the question I wanted to ask them, because the tour was called Got Back, right? Now, we all understand it's a play on Get Back, but do you think that Paul McCartney is aware of the other meaning of, because like Cam and Alexi talked about it a lot, but what they didn't ask was, like, has he never heard Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back, or is this like a play on Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back?
When the Knights of the Realm met, that Sir Mix-a-Lot and Sir Paul McCartney
and Sir Mix-a-Lot.
When they were assigned their holy quests, you figured that the two knights would have encountered one another.
I mean, what a great reboot of that. Like, if they want to make another movie about the Knights of the Round Table, but they've got Sir Paul McCartney, Sir Mix-a-Lot, Sir Vivian Richards, the cricketer.
Oh, shit. So another bouncer's come out, like he looks like a manager, and he said, just give me 1 second. And they're not saying, don't you know who I am? But they're sort of just standing there gobsmacked that they're not being recognized.
I mean, it is quite gobsmacking. I got to be honest with you. Like, they've managed to find the 4 humans on the planet who don't know who Sir Paul McCartney and Taylor Hawkins are.
And the weirdest part was in that last bit, like a guy actually left the club. So we know there's room for at least one person, potentially maybe the most famous person on the planet you could let into the club. As soon as you let out this guy, you'd be trading up.
Just on a traditional one in, one out, you've made the party better.
Wow. That is stunning. That is
I mean, so what happens is, so Taylor and Beck do what I would do in that situation is distance himself from the door, go back out on the street, don't want to get involved in the drama. But the elder statesman, they're on orders of her highness, has just stuck around for a bit because he honestly cannot believe what is happening here, which is that, like, how big do you have
I
to
actually
be, right?
think
like,
that they did it with the most dignity possible, because I think they hung around for just long enough for credulity to snap, where it's like, okay, like you genuinely don't know who this person is and you're not going to let them in. And so I think that,
and then they decided to leave.
Very gracefully.
Yes.
They didn't kick up a fuss. They didn't even, no snide comments, nothing. They just,
no, I'm going to get you sacked. No, I'm going to get you assassinated like I got John assassinated, he says on TMZ.
I mean, there would have been, how many parties would have been happening after the Grammys? There'd be multiple parties, right? Like they found a party. Like, I'm not worried.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. They get into a Hummer that looks like there's a party already going on inside that Hummer. Who the fuck needs
anyone else? I mean, look, I don't really care for Beck, but you've got yourself Taylor Hawkins and Paul McCartney. That's a party right there.
I mean, I'd be very happy to talk to Beck. Yeah. This is a good party. I'd be rapt to be invited to this party.
Although Beck, he seemed the least into getting into the club out of all of them.
Beck was like, I'm fine. I'm fine, man.
I mean, what would Beck be doing in that club anyway? Beck in a hip hop club.
I mean, Beck's a bit hip hop. Beck, like, yes. Beck's a bit hip hop. Like, his first album had like elements of hip hop, definitely. And like over the years, he's dabbled his toes a little in the hip hop world.
Okay. All right. TOFOP, bringing you gossip clips from 10 years ago. But it did make me think, because like seeing him and seeing how famous he was, it was like, that is crazy to think that it just isn't instinctive for some people. But I guess, at the same time, if you're like a 25-year-old bouncer and he would have been in his mid-70s English guy comes up, maybe you don't know who Paul McCartney is. It'd be like us knowing who Al Jolson is.
Yeah, but at a after party for
The Al Jolson,
like, you know,
silent films.
that's right. Like, I mean, it's not like it is a completely unrelated event to the music
I guess.
industry.
Yeah,
like,
but the bouncer is not
Yeah,
a
it's-
musician. He's security.
I understand that, but on a night like that, like much like in the comedy festival, most of the people who work at the venues are familiar who the comedians are. Like, I think it would be like a similar. And I think if you're a bouncer at like a huge club, wouldn't there be some sort of protocol of like, I don't know, like if I ran a club,
A manager.
I would have a sort of policy
like someone
of like,
who works in the business to vet.
yeah, is there not like a
Quality
like if
tester.
Sir Paul McCartney rocked up to one of my improvised shows and they were like, "No, it's sold out." I'd hope that like a manager would pop down and go, "Actually, you know what? We'll find a seat for Sir
anytime
Paul."
I've ever gone to like an after party after an event, it's generally been the case that someone who's there said, "Hey, come down. I'll let you in. Just give me a call when you're outside. I'll walk you in or whatever." Do you think that they didn't have that? They were just like, where's the closest party? We don't want to be in the car too long. Where's the closest after party? Oh, the Argyle. Let's go there. Do we know anyone? That doesn't matter. Do you reckon that was maybe not a conversation, but that was the assumption, right?
Yes, the assumption was, and I would have thought up until this day, the correct assumption is they could go wherever the fuck they wanted
After
to
the
go.
Grammys.
And if someone said, "Have you got any ID?" they'd be like, "I do. It's this cover of Abbey Road." You heard of it?
Speaking of security, one thing that was interesting to note at Got Back was, so I saw it on the Gold Coast. It was a Paul McCartney show on the Gold Coast. So you can take Paul McCartney to the Gold Coast, but that means you're going to get the Gold Coast of Paul McCartney. And the security was so fucking heavy-handed, man. Like they were patrolling the floor, stalking around, and it was funny because at one stage, so you know, like most concerts, when the band hits the stage, everyone kind of surges forward, and so you had your sort of VIP, you know, section of like, 20 rows right at the front. Then you had like the second VIP section in front of the sound, the mixing desk, and then it was kind of general admin standing behind that. So that's where I was. So we pushed up and got as far as the back of the VIP section, so probably only about 50 meters from the stage. And it was all cool and all chill, and like we're even making plans about how we can sneak into the VIP section and get right at the front. But these two fucking boomers ruined it for everyone. This bald guy and his partner, because it was all, everyone's standing in the seated section, but everyone's pushed into the aisles. And so I guess there would have been some grumbling from the boomers who were still seated, who couldn't now see because some people were standing and blah, blah, blah. But if you stuck to the aisles, you know, you're not obstructing any view. It's a pretty safe spot. But this guy and his partner started like dancing and then drifting in front of the seated boomers. And then boomer wars started, like there's some grumbling and stuff. And so security came over, and it was such a lesson in boomers have never been denied anything. You know, they've never had anyone say to them no. And so the security came up and said, "Mate, you can't stand there. Like there's people, you're obstructing their view." And rather than be like, "Oh, sorry about that," and then backing to where the rest of us were kind of standing around, like he kicked up a fuss. Like, you know, why can't I be here? And so the security tried to explain it, you know, simple terms, because you're blocking their view. They've paid for these seats. You know. And then the guy started just being a real dickhead. And then the security guard, it was fucking massive, like roided up. You could see him switch where it went from negotiation to just give me an excuse to fucking choke you out. Like just say something, put your hand on me. Like it was, I just saw that look in his eye to the point where I turned to Sam and said, "Hey, I think we should just back up a bit because I feel like someone's going to get fucking thrown to the ground and their hip broken any second." And it was hilarious because it did escalate. But the boomer guy, he didn't want to lose face in front of his partner or whatever, but he was a bit pissed where he had just enough courage to kind of stand up to this giant muscular bouncer, but not enough coordination or mental dexterity to like make it, you know, to kind of get the last word. So his kind of tactic was that Tony Abbott thing of just standing and staring and looking like you're having an aneurysm. Like he was paralyzed between wanting to say something but knowing he'd probably get his ass kicked, but not wanting to look like a loser. And so he was like, all right, well, I'm just trying to have a good time. The bouncer's like, have a good time in your section, mate. You don't have a ticket, get out of here. And the guy's like, all right. And then he turns in a circle and is like, well, how do I get out of here? And the bouncer goes, I don't go. It's the fucking fastest way. So tracks this dude off. But then this fucking boomer, he ruined it for everyone. Then they got hot on, we've got to see everybody's tickets. And I've never seen this at a fucking concert before, where you're on the floor. And now they're fucking going around, and we didn't have tickets because we'd snuck onto the floor, so we were definitely the kind of people that they're looking for. And so we started backtracking through the crowd. But it was like you've got Paul up there as all peace and love, and you know all that kind of shit. And then you had these fucking like Gestapo-esque fucking security guards going around harassing people, like really like demanding randomly, like no order to it, just kind of profile someone and demand to see their ticket.
You know what I've enjoyed about this story is like that your breaking of the rules was ruined by people who just took it too far. You're not against breaking the rules. You feel like the rules are there to be bent 100%. A little, but these people went too far out and ruined it for everyone who was just having a nice night breaking some rules.
That's right. Like it's kind of it's like when your parents let you drink at home. Like you can have a few friends over and stuff.
Oh yeah, but you can't. If you got one mate fucking vomiting purple down the Tarago,
it's never going to happen. So it's a good way to teach responsibility. I'm all for bending the rules, but don't fucking ruin it for the rest of us. Well, let's get to a bit of TOFOP mail and then we can get out of here. This came from Matt, who says, Daniel Day-Lewis is the greatest ever bulldog. That's the subject. Hi, gents. First time, long time, etc. I've just listened to 481, The Greatest Ever Bulldog. With all the Daniel Day-Lewis talk during the episode, I had an idea for the movie. It's The Greatest Ever Bulldog starring Daniel Day-Lewis. When he goes full method, he'll have to spend a full season playing with the doggies as the Bont. If he masters football, as he seems to master everything else, then the Bulldogs will be able to have two Marcus Bontempellis on the field at once. Or would Daniel Day-Lewis that the real Bont couldn't be there because Daniel Day-Lewis is now Marcus Bontempelli? Right. Thanks for the laughs. So what do you reckon about that? Getting Daniel, you guys, I mean, you could do it with another Bont, right?
I mean, yes. Could we do with another best player that we have? I reckon we'd find somewhere. So do you think something to do with our spare
50-something Daniel Day-Lewis, knowing his commitment to method acting, could learn? I mean, Mason Cox learned Aussie rules in 7 years. How many years does Bontempelli have? Probably about 7. So it means he'll be 63. You'll have a 63-year-old Marcus Bontempelli and a 31-year-old Marcus Bontempelli.
His greatest project, though. Like
if Daniel Day-Lewis can bring you a second flag in the space of 10 years, like that, he will be the greatest entertainer of all time.
What if, because obviously they have the mini legends, which is the kids who are dressed up like the adult football players, but what if they came out with a campaign that was like maxi legends, like so it's the older versions of, instead of the younger versions of today's current day player, they have the older versions of today's current day players, and they get all these actors to, this big campaign. It's going to be part of this like new push, and Daniel Day-Lewis plays the Bont, but of course he won't just phone the performance in like all these other actors who have come in for the paycheck.
He wants to know what's getting needs to learn. Marcus Bontempelli.
Yeah. And he goes down to the club and he just gets so good because he's such a good actor that he can act to be like he doesn't actually have to be the second greatest bulldog of all time, but he can act like he is, which no one else can tell the difference.
This is from Matthew. Fuck me, you guys have created a lot of content. That is true. To be fair, some of it was just that, but most of FOFOP and TOFOP is rich with juicy predictions. That's a real backhanded compliment. Or is it even a compliment? You created a lot of content. Fuck me. Some of it was just that. But FOFOP and TOFOP is rich with juicy predictions. In FOFOP 110, Will predicts Twitter will make no money and then someone will buy it for big bucks and then fuck it up. That was in 2014. Wow.
Oh, my God.
I'm impressed with that.
Wow.
Who are you talking to when you had that conversation?
That.
Maybe Dave. That's early FOFOP days, so
maybe.
Most likely Dave, right? You did most of them with him back then.
I mean, probably Dave, yeah.
Generally hilarious conversations with Charlie and Charlie number one. TOFOP Facts and World's Worst Lawyers are my favourite episodes of TOFOP in 2014. Then there was one where your respective partners made a cameo to prove how unamused they were, but in a loving way. I love that you guys have such a long and enduring friendship. Do you ever fight? I think the only fight I can remember was over The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that doesn't really count as much of a fight.
It wasn't a personal issue. It was more of a disagreement over the third installment of a beloved franchise.
Yeah, so not really. No. No. But I mean, like, it's not like we're in each other's
grill
pockets. Like, we mostly only like catch up to do the podcast. You know, we're rarely in the same place. So there's not like there's a whole bunch of extra opportunity to be having fights.
That's a good point. Because and it's not like we work together long enough hours. Like if this was like a full-time radio job or something like that, where we're doing 5 shows a week, then I'm sure there'd be more conflict.
But we haven't had a lot of professional disagreements.
No, because we're both essentially
the
quite
show.
lazy. Yeah, I think so. If one of us has an idea, the other one is generally quite open to it.
It's like, yeah, sounds
do
good.
I have to do?
Like we had a conversation just like before something where something got suggested and I was just like, yeah, that does sound heaps better than the way we did it last time.
Deep dive starting during COVID on philosophy and then front and back ends of TOFOP and FOFOP working towards the middle. What? So does that mean you're listening to like an early TOFOP and a late TOFOP, early FOFOP, a late?
It's a new way to do it. I don't mind it. I don't mind a little bit of that. It's a little, like we always say, start with the new ones and work your way backwards. But the only problem with that is you do end with disappointment.
Yeah.
Whereas
this one's more of an even diet.
This method sort of balances us out a little bit.
It's like kind of having a mouthful of ice cream and a mouthful of shit.
Yeah. And then just ducking into a philosophy to, you know, just kind of
this is
like
horrible,
have some
but at least I know there's
whatever.
something good coming a bit later.
Yeah.
I saw some shows and I've bought some merch. I'm still toying with Patreon, but I haven't yet. But I do spread the word of the Book of Pod. I hope you're in a great place. Thank you, Matthew. And if I can encourage you to join up the Patreon, maybe I can encourage you with some tantalizing offers, such as ad-free episodes of all the shows of the TOFOP network, including Philosophy, TOFOP with Friends, 2 Guys, 1 Cup, full videos of TOFOP, plus heaps of archive material, bonus comic strips from James Fosdyke. There's so much great stuff on our Patreon, patreon.com/TOFOP. This next bit of mail is from, just calls him, it's Vance. Vance. Yeah, I like that.
Vance Joy?
No, Vance H. And I literally has just got an H there. Vance H.
Okay.
Vance. Are there any other famous Vances?
Vance Joy and Vance.
I think it's a politician, but these Vance.
The legend of Bagger Vance?
That's the last name, I'm pretty sure.
Advanced hair.
That's right. This is a unexplained explained specific email.
Oh, great.
Hey, Charlie, just catching up your work. Started the unexplained explained. I think I identify with the 99% skeptic designation that Charlie has pinned on himself. And also the still bugfuck scared of creaky houses and closets within them. Yes, I think Ben and I, that is our position. If you are tentative about listening to the unexplained explained because you think it's a bunch of woo-woo, Ben and I are skeptics. We don't believe in any of this stuff, but we are fascinated by it nonetheless. And the stories we sort of delve into and the people we speak to, I think everyone is kind of on the same boat. It's just fun. It's fun to dip into. I had this incident where I was researching one of the topics we're going to talk about, and I'm a grown man who doesn't believe in any of this stuff. But reading about ghosts and spooks and specters, it got me a little scared, like a little bit of a scaredy cat.
So you say you're a grown man who doesn't believe in this sort of stuff, but in my experience of talking to you, I think there's at least a small amount of this stuff that you are open-minded to the idea that
I'm open-minded to it. I don't think that I don't think that anyone's got it right. Like people who say that, this is how the afterlife operates or whatever. No, I think there could be something, but not what you're saying. Like, I don't think there is this kind of, we just become invisible versions of ourselves and we try and send cryptic messages to each other and stuff. But I'm not saying that there isn't something out there. That's the 1%.
Yeah, I don't agree with that 1%.
You don't think there's anything? You don't. But how can you know?
No, I don't. I don't know. We're talking about what you believe. I think I'm about 105%.
Right.
I think I don't really believe in anything.
I was working on a Western screenplay about a haunted town where the main character was dealing with the legacy of his father, a mad self-appointed frontier judge. I envisioned this character as tall and gaunt with a narrow head, clad in long, torn duster with a wide-brimmed hat. Think Dark Man and you're in the general area. Anyway, I'm sleeping one night and we get hit by a storm. This happens occasionally in Los Angeles, though almost never with horizontal rain and thunder and lightning. And that's why I felt okay having the window at the foot of my bed open. Well, tonight the storm had horizontal rain and thunder and lightning, apparently the latter of which was about 50 feet away. I woke up to notice that my reddish-brown curtains were flapping violently in the wind. And moments later, an incredibly loud clap of thunder and a flash of lightning illuminated the curtain, and in my semi-lucid state, highly resembled the frontier judge that I'd built in my mind.
Oh my God.
It freaked me out, but also delighted me. That is, until my whimpering dog ejected the contents of its bowels all over the door and wall opposite the window. So, of course, I added some details of what I witnessed to my script notes after my heart returned to normal and I cleaned up the splatter. But your stories made me think of that moment. So thanks for that, I guess. You're welcome, Vance, and thank you for listening to the show.
Thank you, Vance.
Now that we know he's American, Vance makes heaps more sense, right? You're more inclined to meet a Vance in America than in Australia.
I certainly don't know a lot of Australian Vances, because even Vance Joy, which is the one Vance that I can think of, is not his real name. That's like a performing name, a stage name. I don't think Vance is a very common Australian name.
We're going to finish on this, Will. You might remember a few episodes back, we dedicated an entire episode to listener Matthew, or Matt.
I do.
Who had written to us several times, and for some reason we had just neglected. So he's written in. He says, "It's a dream come true. Thank you for the episode, sirs." That was amazing. My friend Kieran was walking his dogs and listening to TOFOP at 5:30 a.m. He woke me up with a voice message telling me to listen to the episode immediately. Mind blown. I am the envy of devoted TOFOP listeners and writers everywhere. Mike III, thank you for the song. It's incredible. TOFOP for life. The Patreon just paid for itself. Charlie, one last thing. Do you remember you and your missus? Oh, God. Jesus Christ. Don't say that to her ever. She's not my missus.
No, she loves that.
Hang on, sorry.
If you ever meet her, you say, who's your missus?
What are you saying?
Okay, yep.
Okay, why aren't there a nun up there? Okay, all right. Sorry. For some reason I'm being told I have to bring... yes, I'll do it. I'm being told I have to bring a plastic cup upstairs, even though I'm in the office where there are no plastic cups and she's in the kitchen where there's heaps of plastic cups.
Okay, well, that's we feel that who's in charge of that relationship then?
Yeah. He says, one last thing. I remember you and your missus started a film. It was called Blackwater or Darkwood or something similar. Yes. It was called Blackwood. There was a screenshot that I shared on Facebook. I haven't heard about the project since. Keen to see if you shot any test footage. Good work, lads. Shall continue to pen letters if I can contribute something relevant or interesting. The long and the short of Blackwood is we went through 2 rounds of development funding with Screen Australia. We got all our ducks in a row. We went in for production investment and they decided they were pivoting more towards television. So in our round, I think 1 project got financed and 7 did not, which was an incredibly dispiriting way to end 5 years of work.
It's so much work for and it's such a common story, yeah. Right? Like this is actually the story that they don't tell you most of the time, is the amount of work that creatives, particularly trying to make movies and particularly trying to make movies in and out of Australia, is the amount of time and energy and creativity. And as you said, having to line up so much just in the hope that they will give you the funding to be able to pursue your project. Yeah. It's incredible. I witnessed all that work that you did over all that time, and just to see the fact that at some stage someone just goes, nah. Yeah.
Well, you know what? The thing about it is none of that work is wasted because we are now in a very content hungry. So I have dusted that script off and I've already got it out to people because it's like, oh, this can be a TV show, 100%. So, and in that 5-year period where I was working with Screen Australia, it was actually awesome. Like they kept sort of giving us money for me to work with these amazing like script editors and mentors and writers and stuff. So I sort of did like a mini kind of like university course in the space of 5 years. But that project may come back. You never know. You never know. On to other projects, including TOFOP. So I've gone from the lofty heights of a feature film to a pretend radio show with my friend Will. No.
Yeah, well, you know what? This is more achievable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't have to ask anyone for money for this. Well, we do. Visit our Patreon.
We do. You, the listener, please sign up.
Have you got stuff to promote?
Yeah, I'm on tour, of course. So, like, people can check out my tour dates at comedy.com.au. But also, very importantly, if you could watch Question Everything on ABC iView, you can actually watch it, of course, live to air 8:30 on a Wednesday night on ABC TV. But if you could check out the episodes on ABC iView, if you could watch those, get our iView numbers up, we've been having such a great time doing the show. So many hilarious comedians who have been part of the TOFOP, FOFOP, Philosophy Universe. So, you can check them all out as guests on Question Everything on ABC TV.
And we'll be back again next week. I'm Charlie Clausen.
I'm Will Anderson.
How long? Not long. Everyone relax. Fucking stupid.
Listener.